Every gardener knows the feeling of anticipation. We carefully select our pepper varieties, from sweet bells in every color of the rainbow to fiery jalapenos that promise a kick of spice. We sow the seeds indoors, nurturing them under grow lights, watching as the first true leaves unfurl. We then transplant these precious seedlings into our gardens, providing them with the richest soil and the sunniest spot we can offer. The dream is always the same, a vision of plants so heavy with fruit that their branches bend, yielding a harvest that fills baskets and lasts well into the autumn. It is a beautiful and rewarding aspiration. However, reality can often fall short of this idyllic vision. Many of us find our pepper plants growing tall and lanky, looking more like thin, sparse trees than the robust, bushy shrubs we had imagined. These plants might produce a handful of peppers, perhaps just 2 or 3 per plant, leaving us to wonder what went wrong. We follow all the conventional advice. We water diligently, we fertilize regularly, and we ensure they receive ample sunlight. Yet the harvest remains disappointingly small. This common struggle can feel disheartening, making us question our gardening skills and the potential of our own backyard plot. This experience is a shared one, from novice gardeners planting their very first vegetable patch to seasoned cultivators with years of experience. But what if there was a better way? The desire for a breakthrough, a simple technique that could dramatically change our results, is strong. In the world of gardening, there are countless tips and tricks passed down through generations. We learn about companion planting, the importance of soil pH, and the best methods for pest control. Yet, among all this wisdom, there lies a simple, almost counterintuitive technique that is often overlooked, especially by those new to growing peppers. This is not a complicated scientific formula or an expensive product. It is a fundamental practice, a secret hiding in plain sight, that holds the key to unlocking your pepper plant's true potential for an exceptionally large and healthy yield. This secret does not involve a special fertilizer or a complex watering schedule. It is a physical act, a moment of intervention that feels at first like a step backward. We are so accustomed to encouraging growth, to protecting every leaf and every stem, that the idea of intentionally removing a part of our precious plant can seem wrong. But it is precisely this action that sets the stage for explosive, bushy growth and a dramatic increase in fruit production. It is a technique that professional growers and savvy gardeners have used for years, but one that has not quite made its way into the mainstream gardening consciousness. Think of it as a form of communication with your plant. You are sending it a clear signal to change its growth pattern. Instead of focusing all its energy on growing taller and taller, reaching for the sky with a single dominant stem, you are encouraging it to grow wider and bushier. This method is known as topping or pinching, and it is the single most impactful thing you can do to ensure a massive pepper harvest. So, what exactly is this transformative trick? It is the simple act of cutting off the top of your young pepper plant. This technique, known to horticulturalists as topping, is the secret to encouraging your plant to grow into a bushier, more productive form. Instead of allowing the plant to continue its upward trajectory on a single main stem, you intervene at a crucial point in its development. This single cut triggers a profound change in how the plant directs its energy, moving it away from vertical growth and toward lateral or side growth. It is a fundamental shift in the plant's life mission. By removing the plant's apical meristem, the primary growing point at the very top of the main stem, you break its apical dominance. In simple terms, this main growing tip produces hormones that suppress the growth of side shoots further down the stem. Once this dominant tip is gone, the hormonal suppression is lifted, and the plant is freed to develop the dormant buds located at each leaf node along the main stem. It is like opening the floodgates for new growth. Imagine your young pepper plant as a small, single-stemmed sapling. If left to its own devices, it would grow taller and taller, producing leaves and eventually a few flowers at the top. By topping it, you are essentially telling the plant, stop growing up and start growing out. The energy that was once channeled into that single growing point is now redistributed to multiple new growing points. Each of these points will develop into a new branch, creating a plant that is much fuller, sturdier, and more balanced. This new structure is the foundation for a much larger harvest. Following this technique is remarkably simple and requires nothing more than a clean pair of scissors or garden snips and a little bit of confidence. The first step is to identify the right time to perform the topping. You should wait until your pepper plant is about 6 to 8 inches tall and has developed at least 4 to 6 sets of true leaves. At this stage, the plant is young and vigorous enough to recover quickly from the pruning, but also established enough to have the energy reserves needed to push out new side growth. Once your plant has reached the ideal size, locate the main growing tip at the very top of the plant. You will see a cluster of small new leaves emerging. Your goal is to snip the main stem just above a set of healthy, mature leaves. It is important to choose a spot above a leaf node, as this is where the new branches will emerge. Using your clean scissors or snips, make a clean, quick cut. There is no need to be timid. A decisive cut is healthier for the plant than a hesitant, jagged one. After you have made the cut, the plant might look a bit bare at the top for a few days. This is perfectly normal, so do not be alarmed. Within about a week, you will begin to see tiny new shoots emerging from the axils, the points where the leaves meet the main stem, just below where you made your cut. Typically, 2 new main stems will begin to grow, forming a Y shape. This is the first sign that your topping was a success. These 2 new stems will become the main leaders of the plant, and they too will produce their own side shoots, creating a cascading effect of bushiness. Your once lanky seedling is now on its way to becoming a robust, well-branched shrub. This new structure is not only more aesthetically pleasing but also much more practical. The reason this simple trick works so well is rooted in some basic plant biology. At the very top of a pepper plant's main stem is a cluster of cells called the apical meristem. This is the plant's primary growth engine, responsible for upward growth. This apical meristem produces a plant hormone called auxin. The auxin flows downward from the tip, and one of its main jobs is to enforce something called apical dominance. This means it actively suppresses the growth of the lateral buds, which are the dormant shoots located at the nodes further down the stem. When you snip off that top growing point, you are removing the primary source of this growth-suppressing auxin. It's kind of like taking the leader out of the chain of command. Without the constant downward flow of auxin telling them to stay dormant, the lateral buds are suddenly awakened. The plant's energy, which was previously focused on a single upward path, is now rerouted to these newly activated buds. As a result, instead of one main stem, the plant begins to develop multiple new stems, usually starting with 2 main branches forming a V shape right below the cut. A plant with a single stem has a limited number of nodes where flowers and fruit can develop. However, a plant that has been topped and has developed 2, 4, or even more main branches has exponentially more nodes. Each of these new branches will grow its own leaves and, crucially, its own flower buds. More branches mean more flowers, and more flowers directly translate into more peppers. Knowing when to top your pepper plants is just as important as knowing how. Performing this action at the right moment is, honestly, critical for success. If you top the plant too early, when it is just a tiny seedling, it may not have enough energy to recover and push out new growth. This could stunt the plant or even cause it to fail. It needs a healthy root system and a few sets of true leaves to handle the pruning and respond with vigorous new growth. Patience in these early stages is a virtue. The ideal time to top your pepper plant is when it has reached 6 to 8 inches and has developed 4 to 6 sets of true leaves. True leaves are the leaves that appear after the initial seed leaves, also called cotyledons. At this stage, the plant is well established, with a strong stem and developing root system. It is in active vegetative growth, making it perfect for strategic pruning. It has the strength to withstand the cut and respond by branching out. Conversely, topping too late can also be counterproductive. If you wait until flower buds appear, topping will delay your harvest. The plant will divert energy from flowering back into vegetative growth. While it will produce more peppers, you will wait longer for first fruits. Consider your specific climate and growing season. In regions with very short summers, some gardeners avoid topping long-season varieties like super hot peppers, worrying about harvest delays. However, for most common varieties like bell peppers, jalapenos, and cayennes, topping is almost always beneficial. The significant increase in total yield more than makes up for the slight delay. While topping is a game-changing technique, it is not a magic bullet that works in isolation. To truly maximize your harvest, this practice must be paired with consistent and excellent overall care. One of the most critical elements is proper nutrition. After topping, your plant's demand for nutrients will increase. Providing a balanced, all-purpose fertilizer is essential. Look for one formulated for vegetables or tomatoes and apply it according to the package directions, typically every few weeks throughout the growing season. Consistent watering is another cornerstone of healthy pepper production. Pepper plants prefer evenly moist soil, but not waterlogged conditions. An irregular watering schedule, where plants dry out completely and are then flooded, can lead to stress, blossom drop, and problems like blossom end rot. Using a layer of organic mulch, such as straw or shredded leaves, around the base of the plants can help retain soil moisture, suppress weeds, and regulate soil temperature, creating a more stable environment for the roots. Sunlight is the fuel that powers all of this growth. Pepper plants are sun-loving vegetables and require at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight per day to thrive and produce an abundance of fruit. Finally, be observant and proactive about pest and disease management. A healthy, well-fed plant is naturally more resistant to problems, but it is always wise to keep an eye out for common issues like aphids or powdery mildew. If you spot a problem, address it promptly using an appropriate organic solution, such as insecticidal soap for aphids. A healthy plant environment with good air circulation between your now bushy plants will also go a long way in preventing many common fungal diseases. Diligent care combined with the topping technique is, honestly, the ultimate recipe for a spectacular harvest. As with any gardening technique, especially one that involves cutting your plants, questions are bound to arise. One of the most common is, does this work for all types of peppers? The answer is a resounding yes. From the sweetest bell peppers to the hottest habaneros, nearly all varieties within the capsicum genus respond beautifully to topping. The underlying hormonal principle of apical dominance is consistent across the species. Whether you are growing large, blocky peppers or small, thin-walled ones, encouraging a bushier plant will result in more nodes for flowering and, therefore, a greater overall yield. Another frequent query is, will I harm my plant by cutting it? It is natural to feel apprehensive about pruning a young, seemingly fragile plant. However, when done correctly and at the right time, topping is not harmful at all. In fact, it is incredibly beneficial. The key is to use clean tools to prevent the introduction of disease and to make a clean cut. The plant is biologically programmed to respond to this type of injury by activating its dormant buds. Think of it as strategic stress that leads to a stronger, more productive outcome, much like how exercise builds muscle. Gardeners often wonder, can I top the plant more than once? You certainly can. After the initial topping creates 2 main stems, you can wait for those stems to grow a few inches and develop their own sets of leaves, and then top them as well. This is sometimes called super topping and will result in 4 main leaders. This can create an even denser, bushier plant, which can be advantageous for smaller pepper varieties. Finally, a practical question: how much will this really increase my harvest? While results can vary based on growing conditions, variety, and overall care, it is not an exaggeration to say that topping can easily double your yield. A single-stemmed plant might produce 5 to 10 peppers, whereas a properly topped and cared-for plant can produce 20, 30, or even more. The difference is dramatic and visible. The journey from a single, hopeful seed to a basket overflowing with crisp, colorful peppers is, honestly, one of the great joys of gardening. By embracing the simple yet powerful technique of topping, you can fundamentally alter the outcome of that journey. That one small strategic snip performed early in the season sets in motion a cascade of growth that transforms your plants. It is a testament to the idea that sometimes less is truly more. By removing a small part of the plant, you unlock its potential for abundance in a way that simply adding more water or fertilizer never could. Imagine your garden in late summer. Instead of sparse, towering plants with a few lonely peppers hanging from their tops, you see a collection of robust, bushy shrubs. Their strong, well-distributed branches are laden with fruit in all stages of development, from tiny green nubs to fully ripe, vibrant jewels. This is the tangible result of your newfound knowledge. The satisfaction of harvesting not just a handful but dozens of peppers from each plant is immense. It transforms your gardening experience from one of hope and occasional disappointment to one of confidence and predictable success. This technique empowers you, the gardener. It demystifies the process of achieving a bumper crop and places a powerful tool directly in your hands. It is accessible to everyone, regardless of experience level or the size of their garden. Whether you are tending to a few pots on a sunny balcony or managing long rows in a sprawling vegetable patch, topping your pepper plants is a skill that will pay remarkable dividends. It fosters a deeper connection with your plants as you learn to guide their growth and work in partnership with their natural tendencies. Ultimately, Gardening is about nurturing life and reaping the rewards. By learning and applying this simple secret, you are not just growing more peppers, you are growing your skills, your confidence, and your enjoyment of the entire process. The pride you will feel when you share your bountiful harvest with family and friends, or when you stock your pantry with homemade sauces and preserved peppers, is the true prize. That single early season snip is an investment that yields a season of plenty, turning the dream of an abundant harvest into a delicious and satisfying reality.